In just days, our planet's population will cross a new threshold. The 8 billionth member of our human family will be born. This milestone puts into perspective what this climate conference is all about. How will we answer when baby 8 billion is old enough to ask, what did you do for our world and for our planet when you had the chance? Excellencies, this UN climate conference is a reminder that the answer is in our hands. And the clock is ticking. We are in the fight of our lives and we are losing. Greenhouse gas emissions keep growing. Global temperatures keep rising. And our planet is fast approaching tipping points that will make climate chaos irreversible. We are on a highway to climate hell with our foot still on the accelerator. Humanity has a choice, cooperate or perish. It is either a climate solidarity pact or a collective suicide pact.
As I stand here before you, we've taken enormous strides to achieve that.
But I don't stand here alone. This progress is being driven by young people all across America. Like young people around the world, they feel the urgency of climate and feel it deeply. They're committed to these issues. They know the stakes, and that's their world we're creating. This is not to stand by and allow us to fail in this responsibility. More of the world is standing with us. But determined diplomacy is necessary. We're finding consensus, building understanding, and launching new approaches.
Shalom, Kahala Yahweh, Bashim Yashai, Bashim Kapardash. Double honors my teachers, the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Peace and mercy to the elect, with the house of David be born again in this generation. And Shalom to the 130 Yasharallah, who today are known as the Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. Before losing our true heritage, we were known as, and still are, the true Hebrew Israelites of the Holy Bible. In today's lesson, we're going to talk about the COP27, which is pretty much the UN climate change symposium that is going on right now. And in fact, tomorrow on the 14th, or Monday, is the day when they are going to release their new 10 commandments for climate change action, right? But before we get into this and talking about that, let's read this. This is 2 Corinthians 11 and 14. And no marvel, for Satan himself is transformed into an angel of light. And as we just seen in those two videos, the first being the UN General Secretary, I believe, coming out with that rhetoric saying how we're basically on the highway to climate hell and that our foot is still on the accelerator. Well, first of all, we're not the ones with the foot on the accelerator. The one who is driving this car are these ED0Ms, are the so-called Caucasian race, right? And when I say Edomite, I'm talking about the biblical name of the Caucasian race, right? Because they're not Caucasian, right? That's a name that they picked up a long history, and they're not white, right? And you see, these devils, they like to make it seem like everybody on Earth is responsible for what is happening to the climate. Now, first of all, the climate crisis, which is being pushed upon the Earth, is extremely embellished. Okay, there are some things that changed, and humanity has had an impact, but it isn't because of the cow farts and over manufacturing. It is because Esau, the Caucasians, they literally have started to manipulate weather, right? And along with some of these other nations that are partners with Esau, perfect example of this would be the Saudi Arabians adjusting the weather, making it rain in the desert, right? For the F1 series that they were putting on. Another example would be the Chinese, right? Manipulating weather for their farmers. Again, the whole idea that climate change is something that is not controllable and it's out of control, and it's our fault. It's simply just a mechanism that these Edomites are using to coerce the world into this new world order, where you're literally going to be charged for the breath you take. Because again, right, this is with this whole talking about climate change and needing to take action, and ultimately the implementation of a carbon tax. Understand that the things that you consume, from be it electricity, clothing, food, and even air, consumes carbon. Okay, and the thing is they want to put a limit on that. So at first they're going to make it seem like it's simply that they're targeting these factories and these governments, but ultimately that's going to all come down to the people, right? This is where you're going to basically we've all seen those images that show what life would be like under this new social or this social credit system, which is ultimately what the next new world order is going to be like. Because again, what Esau is going to do, he's going to do away with money, right? And when he does away with the traditional forms of money, right, you're no longer going to have a credit score that determines what your credit is like, right? You're now going to have a social credit, and your social credit is going to be based off of many things which Esau is going to want to control. One of the things being your carbon intake, how much you're allowed to use upon the earth, right? For example, here's an image that shows, what happens if you are under a certain threshold of the social credit, right? And again, this may seem, crazy and, like it won't happen, but, ask the citizens over in China right now who have been banned or their social credit has gone down below 600. They can no longer buy tickets for trains, can't rent apartments, can't send their kids to certain schools, right? This is what is coming for the rest of the world, right? And this is Esau's wet dream, right? Let's see, other examples would be like this, right? Since your carbon footprint has exceeded your allotment of carbon credits, your personal vehicle has been disabled. Please use public transportation until your allowance resets. Because again, right now that they're going to be tracking your carbon footprint, which by the way, carbon footprint was a terminology that was created by the Shell Corporation, the oil company, right? To kind of put the blame of using up carbons on everybody except for them taking the brunt of the responsibility, because they're the ones out here pumping out all this oil and putting all this smoke into the atmosphere, right? No, they decided to pass the buck onto everybody else, right? By creating new terminology. And ultimately, this is just the devil, man. These are the devils here pretending that they're doing something good for society, right? Another example would be, it tells you here, it says, you have exceeded your 30-day quota of meat. Please select an alternative product from the plant-based section. You see that? Because again, even what you eat is going to be, determined by what Esau says you are allowed to use. And again, this all goes back to your carbon credits, which again, the COP is trying to put a system into place. Right? Here's another example. It says your account does not support purchases of organic cheese, meat, or vegetables. Please make a selection from the sustainable food section. You know what these sustainable food sections are? The bugs, the soy, the GMO foods, right? Because again, really, only thing that organic is traditional vegetables, man. This is what traditional vegetables used to be, right? When Esau started creating new genetically modified vegetables, he had to to basically say the old stuff, the original stuff, is now the better stuff, right? The non-tampered stuff that's been non-tampered with, right? So this is ultimately what these devils are doing, man. Let's read a little bit about this climate conference that opened up, I believe, on the 7th, and is going to end on the 14th, like I said, tomorrow, right? It's a week long of just talks and of people around the world. It says the summit began with the breakthrough after countries agreed for the first time in history of these talks to discuss compensation arrangements for irreparable climate damages, right? So now they've started to actually put some bite behind the bark, okay? And the funny thing is, man, is where they're actually holding this place, right? And we're going to get into that in just a bit. Let's continue to read a little bit. It says, in Egypt, the sun beat down on the desert sands Monday as dozens of world leaders gathered for the 27th round of annual UN climate talks in the Red Sea resort town on the Sinai. It says, the summit began with a breakthrough after countries agreed for the first time in history of these talks to discuss compensation arrangements for irreparable climate damages, what's known in UN parlance as loss and damage. The decision followed 48 hours of intense negotiations, highlighting the continued challenges countries will face striking an agreement on how the world's largest historical emitters should compensate poor countries for the harms those emissions cause. A signal of progress came Monday when the French President Emmanuel Macron announced, by the way, Emmanuel Macron is part of the young leaders of the World Economic Forum, right? Pretty much all the leaders of the world right now are all part of this cabal led by Carl Schwab, who's been around since like the 70s, man, basically setting up this system. It says, Emmanuel Macron announced support for an initiative spearheaded by Barbados Prime Minister Mia Mottley to transform the global financial system to provide more liquidity to climate vulnerable nations. So you see that? That's the gimmick, Akim. That's the point right there, right? See, they're saying that all this is needed so that way they can even out the playing field. They can provide equity for these poor countries, right? So now they're going to basically provide credit, a system of credit, so that way these poor countries could be just as, in the game like bigger countries like the United States, France, Canada, England, and whatnot, right? But you see how they're trying to pass this as, oh, we're doing this for the little guys. So now everybody's going to have to now adopt these new standards on emission control. And if the government is allowed to, these countries are now allowed to have a cap, those caps are going to ultimately affect the people, okay? And that means that when the governments, the countries accept these quotas, right? What's going to happen is those quotas are then going to be doled out to the citizens, and that's where these carbon credits, right? The carbon allotments are going to come into play. And you ain't gonna, and these devils aren't going to present it to you like that. What's going to happen is just like over in the EU right now, you have a luxury tax. Okay, basically, if you buy something that's considered a luxury, you pay an additional tax, and that's what's going to happen over here in America and around the world. Now there's going to be something more likely known, and I'm sure they're going to come up with some fancy, terminology for it. But for the most part, it's going to be a carbon tax. So again, at first it'll probably just be you'll pay more to do certain things, right? You want real meat, you want organic meat, you gotta pay a carbon tax for that, right? You want to buy that SUV that uses up more gas, well, you gotta pay a carbon tax for it. Oh, you want to have a second home, or you want to have a home outside of the city, well, there's a carbon tax for that, right? Oh, you don't want to take the RFID implant, oh, there's a carbon tax for that, and you can see how these devils, how they work, right? So, and here's the second part about this whole client, the COP27, man. They're actually holding it at Mount Sinai, right? Or at least where they claim Mount Sinai is, because here's the thing, right? These devils, they've tried everything to hide the truth of the Bible, including the locations, right? See, let's get this. This is 2 Thessalonians 2:4. Who opposeth and exalteth himself above all that is called God, or that is worshipped, so that he as God sitteth in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God, right? And this ultimately is what this is all about, man. You see, because what they're trying to do, where is it? Let me see. I'm gonna read this part here, right? It says, Mount Sinai is a mountain whose memory and meaning looms large as a place of revelation in the collective consciousness of Christianity, Judaism, Islam, and others. As an ancient sacred place, it was the site of prophetic experience and receiving God's message for the prophet Moses and Elijah and all these Abrahamic traditions, and the prophet Muhammad in the Muslim tradition. COP27 taking place in Sinai can remind humanity of our sacred responsibility to care for God's creations. We come to Sinai in a movement of repentance, okay, and quest. We seek a new vision for humanity and its endangered existence. We seek to receive and amplify a message of life-sustaining living and habits that humanity needs to hear today. In this spirit, the project partners will bring together premier religious leaders from the world's major religions to put forth a prophetic inter-religious call for action. So you hear this? Inter-religious. That's your New World Order, right? These devils right here, and of course they all use a small image. These are the leaders of the world religions who have come together and have signed an agreement, right, from all different walks of religions, right, all coming together. And I think you may have, if you watched some of my videos, I put in that the New World Order of religion is now here, where it showed Pope Francis and all these other world religious leaders. They met in Kazakhstan in the New World Order, one world religion headquarters over that's the shape of a pyramid, and they all signed an oath of humanity or a pledge of fidelity and stuff like that with each other, right, to come together. Well, this is it. This is what they're doing now that they've come together. A call to action to do what? To make the 10 universal principles for climate change, right? The 10 commandments at Mount Sinai. So here you are having Esau, sitting in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God, right? Who's going to give these 10 new commandments? Is it going to be God? No. It's going to be Esau, right? Esau, who is not only has he created this need for climate action, right? He's created an impotence that the world is, in dire straits and needs to take action. But guess what? Esau is also going to provide his solution, right? And the funny thing is they're doing it at this false place called the supposed Mount Sinai, which it's not, right? It's located by this place, St. Catherine's monastery, which when you read the history of this monastery, which is supposedly at the foot of the Mount Sinai mountain, which is right over here, which this is where they say Mount Sinai is at, right? St. Catherine's is right here, right? And they say that this is Mount Sinai, but the thing is this isn't even Mount Sinai, right? The story behind this is that Catherine, this is the mother of Constantine the Great, the Israelite Roman emperor, right? The so-called Negro emperor, right? Constantine, right? She was a consort, right? Basically, Catherine, where is it? Catherine of Alexandria, right? So apparently she was going by here, and she looked up at the mountain. She said, "Oh, that's Mount Sinai," right? It says it lies at the mouth of a gorge at the foot of Mount Sinai, near the town of Saint Catherine in Egypt. So again, these are these devils, man. That and this all here goes back to, like I said again, it's all like made up stories and stuff like that, right? This lady who basically said that this was Mount Sinai, she was on like a journey to Jerusalem during the time of the Crusades, right? And and in her diary she wrote that this was Mount Sinai, which is total bullshit, because when you look at historic events, Mount Sinai is not over here, right? It is over here in Saudi Arabia, right? Over here in Nawabi or Nawabi desert. This right here is where us Israelites, where we actually came out of Egypt, right? Egypt's over here, right? We went through the wilderness and we got stuck here, and this is where Pharaoh was chasing us, right? And right here is you got that small embankment under the sea. That's a little plateau. And watch, there's this website here, holylandsite.com, that explains all this, man. It shows the images, right? And it goes through, and we've all seen these videos, man, where they show you proof of the carvings, showing you the menorahs that were carved into the stones and everything. But they document exactly where the crossings were at, right? They show, let me see if I can find it. Here it goes, right? So there's that place, Nawabi Beach, right? Where ultimately we came in. You got the Pillar of Solomon located over here, right? And then right here is where you see, in this little pillar right here in this chasm, is where you see those famous images of those Egyptian chariots that are under the sea that we've all seen on social media and everything, right? That's where they're located. That's where they've been found. The chariots, the wheels, the skeletons of the Egyptian soldiers, right? This is where it's located, right? And here's that area that shows you, man, that the Gulf of Aqaba, right, has this little landmass, which is where us Israelites crossed over, man. See, here's some more images. That's the Pillar of Solomon, right? Here's the rock that Moses struck in. Right here is Yahweh Nisi, right? That pile of rocks which Moses erected after the Lord told him that he would destroy Amalek, right? And here goes some more images. Let me show you. See, there's a chariot wheel that's been encased in coral and other crustaceans. Let me see. This is the side of Saudi Arabia, Solomon's Pillar marker in Saudi Arabia, right? And then let me see, Jethro's caves, Moses' rock that he struck. This right here, Rephaim, is the location of where is right below. Right here is where we camped, right? This is where you find all the carvings of the rock of like, the calf carving and the menorah carving. And here's that mountain that out of all these mountains has a burnt top. And remember what the Bible says, man, that when the Lord came down upon the mountain of Mount Sinai, that the mountain top was burnt. Let's see. And here you go. Here's those carvings, right? Look at this menorah, right? So this is the real location. But Esau, in all his counterfeit, he's trying to bring forth new 10 commandments to govern the life of humanity, man, right? And how is he doing this? By smoke and mirrors, man, by bringing forth a false truth, right? But hey, what does the scripture say? In 2 Corinthians 2:11, least Satan should get an advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his devices. And this whole climate change and the whole impotence to make the whole world feel like we're at the precipice of our extinction if we don't do something now. That's all a device of the devil's to try to make us sign on the dotted line, man. Right? Just kind of like if you're trying to buy a car and you got some, scummy car salesman, man, trying to get you to buy the car. He's gonna try everything he can to get you to sign on that dotted line by giving you pressure, telling you, oh, I got 4 other buyers, or they're on their way here and they're gonna come and buy it, no questions asked. Esau, that's what Esau is doing, man. He's making it seem like we're in a disastrous situation that only they can fix, right? But hey, all we got to do, Akim, is stay focused on this truth, understand that this is what Esau is going to be doing, right? Because right now Esau is in straits. His plan is not coming together. You have other nations rising up against him. You got people starting to buck up against his political systems around the world, and people are starting to realize that those snake bites weren't what they were advertised as, man. So Esau, again, he's moving forward with his agenda, even though his agenda is having problems with it. So again, be aware that that these devils are pushing forward this new world order agenda, and fairly soon we're going to be seeing things come of this, man. You're going to start seeing a reduction of available services. You're going to see some sort of implementation of maximum things that you can take, and ultimately we all know where this is going to lead to, man, is taking of that MOTB, right? Because they're going to need a way to track everybody. So hopefully this video was edifying, Akim. Until next time, I want to give all honor and glory and praises to Yahweh, B'Hashem Yahushai, B'Hashem Rakah Dash, double honors my teachers, the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Peace and mercy to the elect. Shalom.